This podcast is brought to you by Bagot Centra, the Square Clara, for all your grocery needs. And why not try our delicious food made fresh every day from our deli? Bagot Centra Clara. Live every day.
Broadcasting live from the little town of Clara, County Offaly, it's What's the Story with Lloyd Bracken. Get in touch today through all our social channels and have your say. Oh, and thanks for listening. Now it's over to you, Lloyd. What's the story?
Hi everyone, welcome back. This is episode 8 of What's the Story with me, Lloyd Bracken. I had a lot of fun last week with my father. Paddy was here in the hot seat. I think the Clara Samba is number 1 in the charts this week. Maybe in Indonesia or something, I think. Also, don't forget you can check out littletownmedia.com and you can subscribe there to all the podcasts. They're free every week. And we're back in lockdown here, unfortunately, but it won't stop us. My next guest in the hot seat is a very well-known Clara native. He's a former business owner, publican, and many other strings to his bow. He's a true Clara legend. It's the story.
Right.
How's things, Danny?
Not too bad.
Danny, this is your first time with a set of headphones.
First time with a set of headphones. That's the truth.
And all the DJs you had down through the years.
Yeah, that's right. Derek Me started it off.
Imagine that. Danny, going back to your, you were born and reared in the Green.
In the Green.
What was life back there growing up?
1944. It was terrific. This racy school, the Kennys, and we're all played in the street there, and we go to the green field. I had, I dictated the place now because Bertie McMahon's mammy wouldn't let Bertie go to the town because he got knocked down with a car. So she called me out of all the kids in the street. She picked me out and she says, "Danny, would you go for a message for me? A message down to the co-op. That's where Richie Rex, that area, that's the co-op was there." And I'd call to Nora McMahon every evening. And on a Friday then she gave me a sixpenny bit.
Brilliant.
Well, none of the others had a sixpence. Terrific.
So you were Bertie's minder then, really?
I was Bertie's minder, yeah. Well, she wouldn't let him go. Bertie is a couple of years younger than me now. Yeah. He's named 76, gone by.
Right.
Yeah.
So good times in the Green, Danny. What else did you get up
cowboys and Indians with Ricey Scully, of course. And Vinnie O'Brien is my age. And Scully is 3 months younger than me. John Dunn is a month older than me. Right. And we all played cowboys and Indians round the bloody house. Simple time. But the only thing is, Ricey Scully wouldn't lay down. I riddled him one night at the side of his own house. And nowhere would Scully lay down. That to be the leading character.
Ricey, if you're listening, Danny Rabbette shot you back in the 60s.
Well, I do often tell him it.
Danny, tell me about your parents, Dan and Mary and May.
My father was born in the little house in between Heaton's house and Colligan's house, beside the pool. It's 4 of them in family. So Dan of 4, Lizzie was the eldest. Then I had Tim Rabbette was the next. And then Brady was an aunt of mine. She never married. She worked in Dublin all her life. Right. And 1919, he was the youngest.
Brilliant.
And he showed the pictures in Clara.
He did. Tell us more about that.
And he showed the pictures in Clara then, and then they built him in Mort. So he got Dan to go to Mort 4 nights a week to show film. Dan had a bike. He bought the bike in half a crown a week or something. Yeah. In old Mick Kinney's. And he went over 4 nights a week and got a 5 wages. Then he painted the town as well. Then my mother went when she was 15, working South on Sea. They went over, the 2 of them, they had the job got, and they lived in. And of course, there were 9 years. My mother went at 15. She came back at 24. The war broke out, and my mother says, and Cathy says, we're getting out of England. But we were going back to England.
Yeah.
But in Mullingar, there was an ad of an independent newspaper, the Kirkpatrick family, in the Mill House, where I was for 12 years. She, Julian, and our girl, and do cooking and do general work. And she had a day off, and she had to get her bike off Paddy Callahan on the same basis as my father pays £half a week as well. Paddy Callahan was Dominic Street in Mullingar. Right. My mother was born in Mount Street in Mullingar.
She never went back to England.
She never got back to England, or never got out with Clara and put her commither on her.
And your father was of the music as well?
Oh, yeah, he was a drummer in the pipe band, lead drummer.
Right.
Yes.
Danny never picked up the sticks?
No, nor singing or nothing, no.
Why is that, Danny?
I don't know, I just didn't bother.
Tell us about going down to Mullingar on the bus.
On the bus, that used to go. It was the Ber bus. I'd pull into the station in Mullingar. I'd stay there for the summer and the Christmas and the Easter and every bank holiday weekend. And I loved Mull Passion.
Yeah.
It was a livelier town now than, we'll say, Clara at the time. And I worked in a pub down there as well, bottling stout with Snowy Begley, and Johnny Lyons was the head barman and Paddy Coughlin was the owner. And I had to do it one night on my own. I was 13 years of age. And the band that was playing on the night was the Clipper Carton, the little striped suits and hats. There was 900 to 1,000. It was jammed. Oh. Jammed tight. And Danny heard me and he says, I'll send down Johnny Lyons. Johnny never came down to me. I had to do the whole night on my own.
Imagine.
And
a night you never forget.
Oh, Jesus, will you leave it so 40 dozen of minerals? And I took dozen of little whiskies and 2 dozen of gin. Buys that. Yeah, Danny, I enjoyed it.
You're the eldest of 5 in your family.
I am.
Yourself, Patrick, Nuala, Joe and Trish. Any favourite childhood family-wise?
No, it's not a whole lot, just... We were put to bed early anyway. Myself and Patrick, then hitting one another with pillows. Next thing there'd be murders. Other than that, and Joe was the hemophiliac, of course, right, and he couldn't go out to play with hurling or football. Right. So that's where he got the music end of it. Joe used to. I seen Joe one time. He was only 7 or 8, and he had a whole lot of milk bottles on the table and got a tune out of the mitten.
Imagine
he built.
Filling about water.
Yeah, and Lester with some of them.
Yeah.
We were kids.
Imagine that. Even from that early age, Joe was experimenting with stuff.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell me about your school days. You left school early, did you?
I did.
Tell me why.
Much, because myself and John Gunyon and Martine Dunn, we got our marching orders from Brother Urban was the teacher, and it was the month of November, frosty morning, and a cat. We were all round the stove. And of course I was about the 4th or 5th to be asked at Caddington Club, but sure I never looked at it. The next thing he bet me around the room and opened the door. He says, you should be going to the Protestant school.
Right.
And I wasn't at the cinema when John Gunyon came. He didn't know it. And we weren't at Tommy Cushion's then into the green when Martine Dunn came on. And 5 months I'm laughing at the boys going into school.
How was that?
Because Jack Gunyon, Mikey Dunn, they had a little meeting and they said, no way were we going back to school until we got an apology from Brother Urban. Okay. So Urban had to send... Andy Carey came to our door to know why I wasn't going to school.
Yeah.
I was only going to get me for confirmation. Didn't go to school. But then when I went back to school then, and John Gunyon... Urban, I attended for the last 2 years of my life. Never missed a day, but he didn't teach us. He didn't teach us. I was in the class already, but he didn't bother with us.
Did you have a good 5 months, Danny?
We had.
What else did you get up to in them 5 months?
We were on the old railway line. Of course, the railway line there, you had the old lines was there and they used to park them up along there.
Brilliant.
For years, and we played the Cowboys and Indians on the railway line, Scully and Miss from Bertie and the whole lot of it, We had great times. I was a butcher at first. I worked in Cowan's butcher shop, 1960. But I can go back. I worked in Ashmount when I left school at 4. I did 2 years in Ash. And there was going to a wedding in 1960, March 1960, and I had a little prize bond with Miss Canty in the post office, a fiver. So I took it out. My father wouldn't go to the wedding with my mother. There was a first cousin of mine getting married in Muswell Hill. Eileen Foley was her name. And because I was going over to stay, I was at the finishing in Ashmount. There was no work for me then. And I served 3 tradesmen. Tony McGrath was the block layer. Pat Daly was the carpenter. And Dan Rabbette was he was putting in the glass into the glass houses. Fantastic. But then they were built and there was no work for them. So I went over and I stayed in London and worked in a pub when I shouldn't have been in a pub. I was 18 and a half. I wasn't 17 till June. So then I was in the pub. I was maybe 10 weeks or 11 weeks in it when there was a little man from Donegal, a firm called Valdee Travers. Really? Tarred the roads. He called me over one day. He was a man the very same as poor Paddy Fitzpatrick. He reminded me terrible of Paddy. Right. He was about 65 or 6. He was the foreman. There was about 12 or 14 of us. We used to tar the road. And on a Wednesday evening, he says, what do you get paid here? I says, I get £6 a week and I sleep over the pub. I'm looking for 4 extra hands. And would you, because if you give me 5 days, there'll be £17 and 10 shillings in the pay packet. And if you give me 3 hours on a Saturday, there'll be 22, which for my arm happened to be twisted. So I went down to, I went over to the Finchley Centre was the pub I worked in. Oh.
Was it enjoyable work, Danny, or was it difficult?
Oh, Jesus, I loved it. I loved it. And then I came home, you see. So I was going out at the time. And I worked in Clines with Jack Hand. Jack Hand. And of course, Nuala worked in Clines so as a secretary. Won the books.
So you had many more interests in there now.
Stop, sure, I was there. Then she used to give me an old £1 at the end of the week, and Colin Farrell was the foreman. And I knew how to kill cattle and sheep going into Cowan, but not cutting meat. So Ber Cowen, I went into Ber. I went back. I was going back to give in 2 weeks' notice, and I went into Ber to know that was he looking for a butcher, and he was. And I came back from 17 to be home.
But you were home.
I was home.
You were home.
Yeah.
And with Nuala.
Yeah, that's right. We come along then, and the next thing, Tommy Cushion and Uncle Nolas decided to get married to Molly Rickard in the Green, and he wanted to sell the house. So 300 quid the house cost us. No, we only had it 2 months, the house 2 months, when the Technical Act Road in 1963. Months, and Angela Kinney went to Nolan and said they went in looking to see could they rent the house. Myra Welch, Myra Farley and another teacher. So they gave us £3 a week left.
So then you started the business then?
I did. Wait, let me tell you about the business. I was going back. I worked in Cowns and Nuala was in Clines. Jack McLaughlin called me this day going back. I was going back and Joe being at the bookies, of course. And I heard rumours that Jack too was going to sell. And now I'm in opposition to him. Runnigan is now. Yeah. I was there for 17 years. He says, will there be anyone down in your house tonight? I'm 2 months married now. I get married on the 16th of June. And of course I go to Kerry on the honeymoon. And I celebrate my 21st birthday on my honeymoon. There's not too many can say that.
No, there's not.
But anyway, he called me and he said, will there be anyone down in your house at 10 o'clock tonight? So him and Mrs. McLaughlin came down to our house. And at 10 to 11, and it's spilling rain, with Mrs. McLaughlin's umbrella, I had to go to the priest's house. Say, where? He wanted £1,000 for the butcher shop. Father Condon was the chairman of the credit union. The banks wouldn't give you anything in 1963. 65 it was, 65 I opened the shop on September the 23rd. I went knocked on the door and an elderly woman came to it. I looked for Father Condon. Lucky enough he was there. And he was chairman of the credit union. And I says, Jack McLaughlin wants me to buy the butcher shop. And Father Condon was after marrying the two of us. Yes, the credit union was only after starting in 63. Oh, he says, £1,000. You must be joking, Danny. We don't have it. But he says, I'll tell you, I have a meeting after the confession on a Saturday. But he said, I'll do the best I can for you. The next thing was, I got 500 granted for you. So we went up on the Sunday night, and the McLaughlin's, Julie had the kettle on as well, and we told them the story. 500 is all we can get in the credit union. They went out to the back kitchen, had a little confab. And the next thing was they came back in and they said, Danny, we're accepting your 500. What you have to do now, we'll take the 500 and you'll go with £20 the 10th of every month. And he knocked off 50. So a year and 11 months, I paid him 30 for the last payment. When I was in Counts, I have a foot, which I was about 18. And Christopher was maybe 5, 6. And Brian was about 2.5. I babysat them.
Did you?
No, yeah, I enjoyed me 4.5 years down in Counts.
Danny, what do you think Clara is like now compared to when you were growing up? Different place?
No, I'm very disappointed with it. I'm disappointed with it. Yeah, the town has gone down a lot.
Right. What happened, Danny?
Yeah, I don't know. I was coming down one morning Sunday morning to Mass with 3 of the kids, and this car pulled up. They were going down to Galway. There wasn't nowhere I could get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And there was nowhere. Yeah. I said, you may go to Moore to get your coffee. So I said, look, if I can do something, I'll change that. And then John Tierney then was in America with John and Catherine. And he was home on a holiday. And he said to me, will you watch out for an old pub and we'll go 50-50. We wanted to build a hotel in the town.
Is it?
Jimmy Rabbette, I had Jimmy Rabbette on board. I had Michael Egan on board. John Tierney, he was in America, but he was coming home. And Michael Pett and Father Burke. And I went down to buy Harry Telford. It was up for sale.
Where was that? The people who wouldn't know.
It's there now. In Raheen.
Right.
It was on a Wednesday. Frank Ferry had the auction. And I went down and fronted it. I needed a few acres, 9.5 acres of land and a house.
It's across from here, isn't it?
Yeah.
This house, this was Francie Sire's house.
Yeah, Fancy was in this house when we went down. But I can tell you that 14,000, I was in at 14,000, but there was an Elisa's, and that was Fancy Sire's. Went up to 15,500. I stopped then. I shouldn't have stopped it because we could have gone. We had the 6
good investors.
6, yeah. And we went to Dublin from Father Burke and Michael Egan and Jimmy Rabbette, because Mary Rabbette got on to me after. She says, Danny, why did you give up?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And I sold the idea to Jimmy, Michael Egan, and I had to sell it to myself.
Yeah.
Michael Egan had a laundrette. He had a vegetable shop, and he was the small-time builder. Now, he says, the building of the hotel, we're going to get a cheque for the building of it. And you're going to get it down there beside Richie Brigg. Mm. I went to Jimmy Rabbette. I heard every nail, every bit of carpet will be supplied by Jimmy Rabbette, not Flynn's and Moat. And, of course, who was going to supply it with meat when he'll be up and running? And John Tierney was going to be the manager. So we had 4. So we went aboard Falcha, 4 of us. Now, John Tierney was in America. So that's how we come back then. That's how 12 months after that, the mill house came for sale. And I bought the mill house. We were willing to stay. Michael Egan, myself and John, 4 of us bought. Put 8,000 apiece in. Bought for 27 and he'd give us the 500 for luck. So we had five grand then to stock it up. And we couldn't get the money to do it up. We went off looking for 60,000 at the time. We went for 30, shot down. We went for 10 to the Bank of Ireland. And then we give them the deeds of the place for 27 and a half. Let me tell you, the letter came back to me the week after. Wouldn't touch it with a 40-foot pole. it was a very nebulous area. I says, what's this nebulous? It was double Dutch to Danny.
Right.
So, but says, I'll find out from an educated man. I went up to Pat anyway. I showed him the letter. Well, he says, Danny, do you want me to start? He started off. Hopeless case, a dive, this, that and the other.
Ran it into the ground.
Ran it, well, that's what nebulous meant.
Right.
It was a no-go area. But I remember then, a couple of weeks after, we had a meeting and the boys were disillusioned about they wanted to sell it, and we had closed it for 12 months. And it in mortal sin and no electricity and nothing. Well, Jesus, the boys were not going to be the laugh of the town. So what I did was then, Ronan Brennan was the manager of the Clara branch, only a sub-manager to Tullamore. You know, the Ulster Bank.
The upside baggets.
He was in getting petrol and I went out up. I said to Ronan, look, you see that building there? We're after buying that. Would there be any chance of you giving us 10,000 to get the lounge opened? Leave it with me. And he gave us the 10.
Got the money.
And we handed the 10,000 check to Michael Egan and Tommy Egan, Patrick Rabbette.
Fantastic.
And Joe McGrath put that big long counter.
Did he?
Yes, they did that. My father and mother did the wallpaper. The whole lounge on the 16th of 1979. With the Twigs playing and Brendan Shine cutting the tape. And I hold him one side and John Tierney holding the other. And he sang a few numbers as well, at least the same night.
Fantastic.
We got it opened anyway.
So you went from behind one counter in the butcher's,
yes,
into behind another.
Well, I kept in the butcher shop now. I did a bit of part-time, what they call it, supervising or bouncing and a bit of serving and this and that and the other. So that was grand. We opened it up and it flew. All the bands got their turns.
Yeah. You opened it up as the Clara Lounge.
The Clara, yeah, that was the name.
The Clara Lounge became a hugely successful premises after that.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you had Monday night, take your pick.
Take your pick, fighting over seats.
Talent shows.
Night,
Danny.
Tuesday night off.
All right.
But then Danny had a little space in the Clara that was idle. And I go to Jimmy's Joe. Jimmy, we're going to put in a snooker club here with 2 nice tables. You put them in and we go 50-50.
Brilliant.
He put in but it wasn't.
Yeah. Thursday night, big card games.
Oh, the card game.
How those, Danny?
Oh, Thursday night, traffic jams in the town. And we started the card game on a Thursday night with the soccer club. And we'd put up 700 in prize. But the first night we got my father's Monster card game and we gave it a plug. And only 16 tables turned up. That before I had table, a fiver ahead. And the first man to win the 500, it was 500 first league.
Well, Johnny.
Up and just up Kilbride, you know.
I know Trevor listens to this show every week.
Yeah, well, Johnny Kelly won 500 and we got his photograph taken. An awfully independent in 1983. The third week we had 30 tables. And the following week we had 41 tables.
Imagine that. So you were in profit then after the fourth week.
And then we came up with the idea of to put up a motor car for a card game.
Wow, that was unheard of, was it?
Oh, stop. Will you leave it so? Went into Ronnie Colton, the club, and he gave us a car, a Corsa's card, really after coming out with it. And he gave us it to us for 5,400. And imagine 256 tickets we got printed at 50 a ticket. And imagine we never sold one ticket and we got rid of them in 9 months. How does...
Just George's inquiry.
So the next thing, the way we got rid of them was, I bring the car up. We used to give Fred Payne a score to house the car every week, and around 7 o'clock I bring it up every Thursday night.
This was your little spin in the new car.
Up and down. 75 in the Clara, and we were putting 36 tables in the Scouts' Den.
Imagine that.
And Jim Kerr went on, Danny, was Santa Claus every week. I gave Jim Kerwin £100 every Thursday, and all the kids had set the tables out.
Fantastic.
111 tables, and we turned away 4 or 5 or 6 tables to nowhere to play cards.
Did you not put them in the butcher shop?
No, we couldn't. But anyway, we got rid of the tickets in 9 months. The winner, the handling man, won the car anyway. That as well. Brilliant. And I got my bar extension.
Right. So Nuala was busy behind in the kitchen.
Nuala and Anne with her.
Right.
We'll jump back a little bit now. We have our little front bar that's there now at the moment.
Yeah.
And walls had to be broke out, and I did that. And John Tierney with me, the two of us, and we got John Moore Senior. Yeah. We opened that the following year. And on a Friday night, and Sonny Knowles was playing with Podge Griffith in the lounge. And Sonny, I have a forehead, that one. Sonny again, and Sonny cuts it with a scissor.
Brilliant.
12 months after.
You mentioned the front bar that you spend nights working on there. We have a little piece there from your brother, Patrick Rabbette.
Right.
And he tells us about a time you were trying to keep the crowd quiet in there, right? And directly after that, then we have a little piece from your friend. So have a sit back and have a little listen to this.
I remember, so well, and it always sticks out in my mind because of the people that were there, in the pub. That night, it was unbelievable that Kelly had Mick Bryan. Mick used to come up from Middleton every year, seeing my father. The two of them were best of buddies. Yeah. And of course, just go off for a walk and come back then and into the Clara, or the log bar was called all the things.
All the things.
But they'd come back then. Sonny Kelly, Paddy Fitzpatrick, my father, Mick Bryan, and there was other people there, I can't remember it, but the sing-song started, right. You see. And of course, every hips and chest was hopping at the time. Danny came along and he came in the middle of this and he said to us, lads, he said, will you keep it down? He said, there's a man upstairs, he said, trying, he said, he said he suffered. So he said, so we all went into a whisper. Everything came down we were whispering. And next thing the door opened and in comes Tom Newman and Paddy Higgins. So Paddy takes out the mouth organ. And he starts to play. Next thing, Tom jumps out in the middle of the floor and starts dancing. And next thing, Danny comes in from the lounge and into the back of the bar, and he just looks and he puts his two hands on bollocks.
He used to have a talent competition on a Monday night. You had to be down at 6 o'clock season. It was absolute. It used to be jammed. Now I'll tell you who sang in it. Jojo. Now he was very young at the time, and he sang with Paddy Horn, Tommy Scanlon, and Trevor. And the four of them sang kind of a cappella, Now, they didn't win it. It was a young girl from Mort won it. But yeah, I'm telling you, we used to go, and I'll tell you what we used to do. We used to call for Rose, Marion Square, and Rose would bring down sandwiches.
Right.
Because you'd be there till 12 o'clock. I used to come collect Liz from work, 5:30, 6 o'clock, straight down to the log. On a Monday night, where would you get that? And it'd be jammed. All he wanted was joking and laughing. There's so many jokes that I couldn't tell them because most of the people that are about are alive. But there were some classics. He came out with some classic staples. Loved cards. Just now, even now, to go downtown now and I'd meet him and say, when are we going to get a game of cards? He calls it a fix. That's his fix,
Right.
Game of cards, is it?
Would you have any advice for Danny?
Advice for him? Oh, mother of God. Get somewhere we can have a nine, tell him.
No, Danny. I don't know where to start. Paddy telling us about you trying to keep them all quiet. Tom Newman comes in with the harmonica.
I remember that.
Jimmy Hughes wants a 9.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to organise one.
Yeah. We didn't play one since March.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
I always thought of the Clara was like, I suppose, the answer to
the time we had Paddy Riley. We had them all. Two nights stand out. Foster and Allen were after launching. They launched a bunch of times in the Clara with Donnack O'Dooley doing MC. You would like to swing a cat in it. Jammed. That night stands up. And Tommy Cushion. But he used to do the door for the by Foster and Allen. I think the cover charge that night was 7 and 6.
Right.
At the money.
They went on to top of the pond as well, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
that was a big
Clara.
night now.
Was it, yeah.
And night that stands out is the giant haystacks, 42.5 stone, and he comes on around 3 o'clock or 3:30, and there's 2 chairs has to be put out for him. And Noel, 2 chickens. He devoured 2 chickens. He was the last to go on the night. But the man came to me, do you see, about 3-4 weeks before, a man looking for venues to tour. And I said to him, we went out and they looked at it, but he says we could get away with it. So when we were finished, wait till I tell you now, it's like this. If you want to have big kind of area, you take the door and I'll take the bar. If that doesn't suit you.
Yeah, right, good man, Danny.
And $2.50 for kids or something.
So they get Foster and Allen down there.
Yeah.
Giant haystacks.
Yes.
Brook sheets.
Them all. No, I couldn't name up a whole
Were you always trying to think of different ideas or
Yeah.
to keep it going?
Yeah. And we had the fork suppers, of course.
Yeah.
And then I had the idea then for the match. Awfully be playing in Navan maybe, or Cork Park would be. Big 52-seater bus. I got them to Dublin or to Navan or everywhere the match was. And they got to the match and they got back from the match and they were in for a fork supper after with an extension to it. What you get?
That was a great business one, Danny.
And I was able to give your man $150 for the bus and give Nuala another 100 and something for the. We didn't, and I took the bar.
Very good. Another, I suppose, down there was the Danny's nightclub. Was a great
Yes,
night.
yeah.
Before you tell me a few pieces, but I have a little piece here from Barry Flynn.
Oh, Barry, yeah.
On your
Barry,
DJs down there. Of the Danny's nightclub.
Yeah.
I have great memories of Danny and Nuala, particularly in the Clara Lounge. We actually had our own wedding reception there. And of course, particularly fond memories of the Saturday nights in the Mill House, or the Clara Lounge as it was then. Danny's nightclub. What a place. Brilliant atmosphere. Could never put my finger on exactly why, but it was perhaps the low ceiling, perhaps it was the people. It was just a fantastic atmosphere and great crowds almost every Saturday night. The odd skirmish, generally over a young one, sometimes over something different, maybe a bag of potatoes or a jacket or something like that. But we got on with it and moved on to the next week. And, when I think of, I mentioned the atmosphere there, what we thought was the older generation at the time that made it, the likes of Jerry Beggleton and his little dance, George DeBow waiting for the slow set. You had Paddy Beggleton in the Wellington boots and the vest. You had Teresa Stanley, Julia Bracken at the bar, and I think of the staff no longer with us. Jimmy Meehan, Ginger Dunn, Tony Finn, The Fly, poor O'Donnell, of course, and Sean, and of course my own colleague Derek Mee as well. We had some nights in that premises. I've done many great 21sts all around the country, but some of the best ones ever would have been in the Clárach. Davy McGrath springs to mind, as does Patricia Cullen's and Gerard Dunn's. And behind the scene, the phone on the Clárach Lounge, the official or unofficial office of the Rocket Roadshow was that phone upstairs on the landing of the Mill House. Before we ever had a phone, that's where we did our business for the discos. Danny and Nuala were always great to local people anyway, local talent, always supporting them. Our first break, myself and Derek, of course, our first residency was given to us by Danny back in the 80s, and it set us up nicely. And many, many years later, Danny's son Paul and granddaughter Lorraine gave Adam and Aaron, my twins, their first DJ residency nicely, and much appreciated.
Nice words there from Barry Flynn.
Very good.
Does Barry owe you money for that phone call? You want to be checking the itemized bill, Danny.
Stuff. We had some times.
Barry said there's some huge crowds gathering on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Danny, is there any way you got rid of that crowd after closing hours? Or?
Well, they wouldn't go too early. The shutters used to go up and down a good bit. All the ballycumbers and the dunes all came in. Yeah.
What was some of your most memorable characters back then, Danny?
Well, Packy slamming was, I could tell you a little story about Packy Slam, the Packy slamming fiddle. And I have to say this now. I do tell this at Old Wakes when I go on to it. Packy slamming worked in the factory. And on a Thursday night, he went into Carey's and a fiver to play the game 50-50. But we were letting Packy in free on a 50-50 basis. I was in Johnny Judge. There was about 5 or 6 played. But if they won the 550, we didn't take anything off. So 2 year Earl and Packy never won anything. So this night anyway, we didn't know that Joe Carey was giving him the fiver every Thursday night. So Packy spent the fiver drinking in our place, and his little pay packet had to be disturbed. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So the next thing, he gets 9 games this night on his own 500, and he comes over to me, Danny, he says, what am I going to do? He declares Joe is giving him the fiver. Joe Carey gives me the fiver every Thursday night. What am I going to do? So I told him, what you'll have to do, Packy, is go up to Joe Carey with the 2. We only gave him a cheque for 2. It was a cheque we gave him, 250. So I go up to Joe Carey and tell him the man on the far side of Lusma had 9 games. The only time you got have Joe give another fecker had the same amount. And we gave him the 250 and Packy. Oh, Packy, like, his eyes lit up. Went up to Joe, threw in the cheque to Joe, 250. And Joe handed him back a 125. They were 50-50. Did you get me? But sure, Joe Carey had the price of 4 barrels of Guinness at the time. He So Packy got the out. That's the Packy fiddle.
Danny, how did you deal with rowdy or troublesome customers down to the years?
Sure, I did it myself. Kind of. No bouncers in play. I never employed a bouncer. No bouncer.
No bouncer.
I did that myself.
So what did you do, Danny?
What else could I do? I supervised. I wouldn't be serving in the night. The big crowds down there. I'd be no bouncers. It's the truth. No bouncer got any money.
Oh, brilliant.
No. But different times now.
What about some of the staff that worked down there, Danny? Barry Flynn mentioned a few.
Yeah. Well, they were great there. We gave them all. David and Mara, them all the Gossans got it done because they were the same age as poor old Donald that passed away. Yeah. And we gave them all a break.
Brilliant.
Davy McGrath worked with us for a year or 2, but he was in the same class as Pádraig, you know.
Yeah.
And they were all mates, you know.
I had a nice message in from Jimmy Kidney. He worked with you
Jimmy,
in a few places.
Yeah.
He said, Danny and Nuala and family were always good to me. Never a bad word from the first day to the last.
No.
He went on to say that he enjoyed the cracking stories down through the years, along with all the characters he served. He also said you were a great man to pick up people's spirits with either a story or a tip for a horse.
Yeah.
Any tips today?
No.
Staying on the pubs, your son Pádraig continued in the pub trade in Willesden in the UK.
Yeah.
Tony's Bar.
Do you ever give Pádraig any advice on how to run things?
No,
you don't have to. Yeah, Pádraig was good. Pádraig was good when he was small. He was very good at it.
Danny, we're going to take another few messages and stories. First up is a message in from your sister Tricia in the UK. Yeah.
Hi Danny, Julie's sister Tricia here. Just to say I'm very proud of you and look forward to hear the interview later on. Can't wait to get home to visit again soon. All my love and best wishes, Tricia.
My father's had a famous saying when he was growing up that he had no gift, he wasn't given anything. His brother Paddy was a fine carpenter, which was his gift. His grandfather would have given Paddy all the tools. And Joe, as you know, was given the gift of music, a tremendous singer. And Danny would say I was left with nothing. But in my opinion, my father's gift was that he had an uncanny knack of being able to talk to people, any person, make them feel very comfortable at home and get stories and information out of them that they wouldn't realise they were giving. behind the bar, legendary stuff. I mean, he probably what comes to mind is most, you'd probably have to experience it, is his legendary readings on the morning from 11 to 1. He was giving what he called his sermons, where he would troll the paper and come across a funny anecdote and read it out to his audience in the bar, which would be the likes of John Phelan, Tony Finn and Vinnie Rickard, all characters in their own right, but it was something that had to be witnessed. The boys, it was like they were back in school, and Danny was the schoolmaster. I had the pleasure of having him with me when I was in the butcher shop in Mullingar for 10 years, and he was a tremendous asset, has always been a tremendous asset to me. The public house, or being a publican, was probably his true calling, because it really excelled behind the counter. His love of horses was legendary. The bar would be humming during Cheltenham, where it'd be easier to get a bet on rather than getting a pint. But that was Danny, and everyone knew. He is a legend in his own right. Took a couple of knocks. Danny being Danny, he continued on and got home with life, and took the practicality from his mother, May. But a great man. He happens to be my father, which is very proud.
Nice memory there from your son, Paul. Here's another son of yours from the UK, Pádraig.
Well, now, all I can say is my father is a great character, but I'm trying to give you a story for a minute or a half minute. I could go on for a couple of hours, no more than himself. But many years ago, he came over for Paddy's Day, and myself and Sean were working down in the city of London in Ryan's Bar, Carter Lane. And the same day, the place was packed. We were doing breakfast in the morning and functions and all that. And all of a sudden, he stood the whole day, nearly 10 hours, filling pints of Guinness. And in the middle of it all, the cooler broke down. It was just madness. And then the next day, we went to Linkfield. There was a good friend of ours who worked in the bar. He drank in the bar, Tom Ford. And we got down to Linkfield the next day. We were about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning anyway. And we got into this owners and trainers box. The horse was Zane, and we got the horse won the race, and I had a few quid in him anyway. And we were up in this owners and trainers box, and he says he had a drop of champagne. He said, "Jeez, that's lovely and tarty." And I never forget that day. But he no more than any of us, we worked our socks off that day in the bar, and we had a great whole day. But I have so many memories of my father. That's one good memory I have, but they're all good memories. And I'll see him. I'm hopefully home the weekend, and we'll see everyone. Yeah. Thanks very much. Good luck.
Danny, there's some
very
nice
good,
words,
very good.
So, Danny, am I computing this right? You went over on a break for Paddy's Day, and you ended up
went over for a week's holiday.
So you ended up shift.
I went down. Pádraig says, "Will you come down?" And I got in at 11 o'clock until 11. He gave you 2 hours short. And I got one little break around 6 o'clock, and I pulled every pint. There was 20, 25, and all the boys had to come then, 3 pints, 4 pints.
Take them away.
Guinness. And Pádraig was emptying the till every hour. And if there was barrels to be tapped, that was his job.
Yeah. Would that be typical of Danny then, to just muck in and help out?
Yeah, oh yeah, I did. One of the days, that's what I did. I'll tell you, it was someday.
Paul mentioned the bar sermons from the daily papers, Danny.
We used to. Well, if there was something to be read about, we'd do the reading.
Set the scene for us. Who'd be at the bar then?
Vinnie Rickard would be there. John Phelan would be there. Tony Slammon. Tony was a regular in the corner. Rory McCarthy was there. Had to be Tony Finn would be there.
So you'd pick out a piece from the day. Yeah, Danny, unfortunately, as Paul mentioned, sadly, you took a couple of knocks in life.
That's right.
Yourself, Nuala, and your family went through, I suppose, what no family should go through in life.
That's right.
You lost two sons in a short space of time, Donald and Sean. Yeah. Will you tell us about them in your own words, if you wouldn't mind?
Well, Donald, I know Donald went to America to a christening of Catherine Tierney's daughter. She's 14 now. And he brought Mary with him. And I know he was 6 days over there when we got the word. Paul got it first from Catherine Tierney. He was going to bed after the 4th. It was into the 5th of July. And Paul rang me. I was after opening up docks. And Bunty Rochford was there. Vinnie, Rick, there's 3 or 4 of us. Sean was there as well. The next thing, about between 11:30 and 12, it was only after opening. Paul says, "Have you anywhere to sit down?" She was after ringing Paul, and he was in Galway for a day or two, for him and Colette, and a few days down in Galway, and then he belted it home, and it was shocking. Carry on, shocking to the world. And then Sean then got testicular cancer then 16 or 17 months after, and had 1 week of treatment done, and he seemingly fell up in the man. He used to go up to Donald at the minute. He hit his head, and the next thing, a brain hemorrhage. 2 days later, he was gone as well. I got very nervous then after that. I says, "What's going to come next?" I said, "What's going to come next?" I got very... You would.
Yeah. I mean, they're two big
hits.
One huge setback,
Sean,
but not only one, but two. Just going back to Sean for a moment, like yourself, he worked in docks.
Yeah, but he run the pub down in Carter Lane where Power worked, and where I worked for the day. And Donald then, I mentioned it to Donald, "What do you do?" She says, "Go ahead, Danny, go ahead, I'm behind you." It was Donald's. So I did all the negotiating, and Donald was delighted. And Sean was in London, so he asked Sean to come over and run, because we were running Danny's. That's how Sean come home.
Sean was a great guy, very supportive.
He was.
Local musicians.
Yeah.
I actually have a little message here from Shauna, his daughter.
Oh, Shauna, yeah.
I go up to my nanny and granddad's house every weekend, and I always look forward to the stories and laughs we have. They always have been there for me and never let me forget how much my dad cared about me.
Yeah.
They always told me the funny stories to go with that.
Yeah.
I love all my granddad's stories and sayings. The dinner table is never boring at the weekends. And she goes on to say that she loves us, you both, and thanks you very much.
She does, yeah. Shauna comes up every weekend.
That's nice.
And since the school closed now, she's up.
Brilliant.
The whole time.
Brilliant. We also have another little message here. A guy who was named after you.
Hi, Danny McCormick here, godson to Danny Rabbette. I was actually named after Danny Rabbette. Danny was my father's best man. I've known the Rabbette family a long time. Started off working for them in Danny's pub, and then moved over to Docks. I was in Danny's pub where I met Sean Rabbette first. Very, very carefree, easygoing guy, always smiling, always laughing, always telling a joke. The first thing he said to me was, "I love you, young boom, because you're Speedy McCormick's son and because you're my daddy's godson." And sure, it was just, never had an issue. Great boss, very carefree, always very supportive of musicians and the younger crowd coming into the pub. Ran darts competitions very well. Tried to get a pool competition going between ourselves and Malays, and the dart competition, the Docks Malays Perpetual Cup. It was great crack while it was going every Sunday morning as well. Lovely person. He's extremely sorely missed. Just going forward, I'd like to wish the entire Rabbette family the very, very best of luck. They have always been very kind to me, very, very gracious people to work for. So I just like to wish them all the very best.
Very good.
That's Danny too,
Danny too, yeah.
Yeah. Fond memories of Sean.
Fond memories, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just to move on to Donald briefly then. Donald was a huge GAA Gael.
Oh, yeah.
And his presence within the GAA celebrated every St. Stephen's Day.
Every St. Stephen's Day we have that. And we held that when it was in Danny's or Docks, but then when we were out in the 4 year or more, maybe 2016.
Is that something that you enjoy every year in his memory?
Yeah. And then the GAA paid a great tribute to him to have an alley up there for...
Tell you what we do, let's hear a little bit about that. This is Pádraig O'Mara, and talks a little bit about Donald.
Thank you for asking me to say a few words about Donald Rabbette on behalf of Clara GAA Club. I know Danny's on with you there today, so hello Danny. What can we say about Donald Rabbette? He played every grade of football and hurling for the club, from under 10 up to adult. In 1980 he won under 16 hurling champion. 1983 was a fantastic year for Dawn. He won a junior hurling championship and a minor football championship. He was also part of the Arsenal Kieran team that won the All-Ireland football final. 1984 he won another junior C hurling championship, and 1985 was a great year again. He made a breakthrough in the Offaly minor hurling panel, which was very difficult for a lad from this end of the county or from Clara. Donald became an officer at the club at a very young age, and he was on numerous committees over the years. Donald's first love was hurling. He knew how to play the game. He had a great hurling brain. He knew every hurler in the county. He knew how to win games. He knew how to mark players. He knew how to take players out of the game. He knew how to get the best out of players. A testament to him was Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock away in Kinnity or Coolderry or Shinrone, or places that you have to travel a fair distance. You might struggle to get a team, but not with Donald. Lads wanted to play for Donald Rabbette and got wins, and that's what he loved. He loved beating hurling teams to underestimate us. Donald went on to be heavily involved with a lot of adult teams and underage teams over the next few years, notably our junior hurling championship win against Tullamore and Killorn in 1996, an intermediate hurling win in 2003. He was very proud of this. There was a very young team, and he had a lot of very good hurlers on it. Over them few years, Donald invested an awful lot of time and his own money in hurling in Clara. Never left a young lad either without a ball or a hurl in Clara. On the June Bank Holiday weekend in 2013, we held a football and hurling festival on the Sunday of that weekend. And in a very emotional little tribute, we unveiled the Donald O'Cunning hurling wall in memory of Donald, and there's a little plaque on the wall there. It gets well used. There's not a day goes by that a young lad's not banging a ball against it, and that's there in his memory for the rest of our lives. And of course then the Big Dog charity match on Stephen's morning. A lot credit has to go to Alan Cronin for keeping this going every year. It's a great day to raise a few pounds for charity. Donald was a great servant to the club as a player, a coach and as an officer. He's a true Gael. He has written himself into the history books of Clara GA Club for his commitment and the development of hurling. I'm sure he's smiling down on us and he's fairly happy with the progress we're making in hurling. Just to Danny and Nolan and the Rabbette family, thanks for your support over the years and the best wishes in the future.
Nice. It's Pádraig O'Mara from Clara GA Club.
Yeah, very good.
Some nice words there about
very
Donald.
Very nice words, yeah, and true ones.
Very poignant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very emotional, yeah, very much so. Yeah. Very much so.
But nice that the support is there, and you have the Donald O'Cunning wall as Pádraig.
Yeah, that's right. That's there in the history.
It's nice, Danny, that their memories are living on.
Yes.
And there were two very bright lights in Clara.
There were.
I had a few messages in, Danny, from different people. We'll read them off. Stephen Rabbette.
Yeah.
My Uncle Danny, one of the greatest characters I know. I started working in Danny's when I was 15.
That's right.
And it was some education to get behind the bar. Some of the best memories from Docks with Big Dog and Sean. Great times.
Great times.
Joe Rabbette, another nephew of yours.
Yeah.
Best wishes to Danny from all the Rabbits in Mudfield. John Crane Slammin says that he was in touch about a great story regarding the Bic lighters. He said there's probably still some left. Enda Kennedy, another legend. Danny, what a gent. He says, are you computing?
That's right.
Danny, we do a quick fire round on the podcast. I ask you a couple of questions and you tell me the first thing that comes into your mind.
What's that now? Oh, Jesus.
We'll give it a go and see how you get on, right? You ready for this though? What's the first car you ever bought?
The first car I ever bought was a van, actually.
What's your favourite TV show?
Oh, well, I watch a lot of CNN there and Trump. I want him gone.
What's the best thing about being from Clara?
I have enjoyed my life in Clara.
Danny, describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, Jesus, what do you know? What do you mean? Describe what? I can't. What do you want me to say?
What actor will play Danny Rabbette in a film?
I don't know. What?
Go on, give us an actor.
How would I?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Danny, if you wrote a book on your life story, what would you call it?
And I have the makings of a book.
You do?
Big time.
Big time, Danny.
Big time, because I'm only giving you a quarter of what.
I come back again. This is only the first.
Yeah, I must.
So go on, if you'd had a book, what would you call it?
What?
Danny's Nightmare.
Nightmare. Yeah.
One thing you would take to a desert island.
Oh, I wouldn't know. What would be interested anyway.
You're not the headphones anyway.
No.
Behind the butcher counter or the bar counter?
Oh Lord, the bar counter.
And the last one in the quickfire round, Danny, lounge or bed?
Oh, lounge or bed, yes.
What would you do if you won the lotto?
I'm trying to get the lotto. $1 million is no use to me.
Right.
I want about 40.
All right.
And I build that hotel that I wanted to build years ago. I enjoyed my life.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I did a lot of hustling and enjoyed every minute of it.
Any regrets?
No regrets. Lovely.
Danny, before we finish, I must say it doesn't go unnoticed about the work you do up in the cemetery in Clara.
Correct. There's some people have no one following up. So
fair play, that's something you do and enjoy.
I do. I just have no one to do anything.
Are you a religious person, Danny?
Not over. No, not over. But I say me few prayers.
Someone told me you would have been a great guard. I won't tell you who told me that.
Well, they told me to mention Father Jack was a great old influence too. They used to come down every Friday night when we had that Clara.
Brilliant.
They used to call it the Bray bus. Anne'd come and Noel'd come and Lily'd come. And they'd have a few drinks in the little room, in the little restaurant.
Very good.
Ah, yeah.
Right, Danny, that's it. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Grand.
And thanks for all the work you've done for Clara over the years.
I had the town at heart.
You do.
I had that all the time. The hotel was the one.
The hotel might happen yet, Danny.
It was the big miss. No, we have to get money for that.
Yeah. Well,
have to
Frank Moore and Ber Cowen, if you're listening.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Danny, thanks a million.
Thanks very much.
I wish you well for the future.
That'll do.
And we'll see you in the hotel.
Yeah, and we'll...
Hotel Clara.
Hotel Clara, yeah. Grand, thanks, Lloyd.
From the dark end of the street to the bright side of the road, we'd be lovers once again on the bright side of the road. Little darling, come with me and help me share my load. From the dark end of the street to the bright side of the road.
This podcast is brought to you by Bagot Centra, the Square Clara, for all your grocery needs. And why not try our delicious food made fresh every day from our deli? Bagot Centra Clara. Live every day.
You just listened to What's the Story with Lloyd Bracken. Check out all our social channels for info on new episodes. Oh, and thanks for listening. On the Town.